Born to Ride Radio this Thursday evening. That is March 31st. And we'll be right here with it there. Just don't go anywhere, folks.
This is Boss Hogg Radio, home of Born to Ride Radio.
Okay, welcome to another Thursday edition of Born to Ride Radio on the Boss Hogg Radio Network. In the studio, we've got DB. He's working the Facebook Live cameras. Welcome, DB.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow, I'm not inviting you back to the table.
Why?
You got introduction before I did. You don't. Even Debbie and Ron don't get it before. Wow, DB, the special guest in the studio tonight.
Okay.
Technical guy.
You got Mama Dukes over there belly aching. Okay. And of course, you've got Ron Galletti, the mogul media empire that is Born to Ride.
Pretty much stress factor 101. The weight of the world on the shoulders. Communication factor nonstop. Just nonstop. So yeah, man, tomorrow is going to be April Fool's Day. Is that a special day for Boss Hogg Radio? April Fool's Day?
There's usually always something happening there. Yep.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
Tater broke out the rubber.
We got a good show tonight. Nefarious James is calling in. And, man, we've got someone really special. It's putting on a big event for veterans in Daytona coming up in May. He's the founder and CEO, Ben Peterson, of Heroes Honor Festival. It's gonna be amazing. It's to tribute the Vietnam vets. So he'll be calling in. It's gonna be a big show. Toby Keith's playing. A lot of stuff's going on with that, and we're real honored to be a part of that because we can never do enough for our veterans. But it's an honor to have him on the show tonight, calling in, the founder and CEO. What do you think of that, DB?
Oh, I'm a huge Toby Keith fan. Of course, I'm a huge veteran supporter and stuff like that. So anything that anybody can do to help the veterans out, it's special. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, for sure.
And he normally does a lot of, if there's any kind of event that to raise money or funds or support veterans, he usually is very supportive of any organization. Correct, Toby Keith?
Yeah, and they don't have to do it, but they really appreciate the veterans, and it's good when musicians and celebrities get on board with any type of charity, but the veterans charities are even greater. They're not slapping anybody or nothing. Slap heard around the world. Did y'all talk about that on your show?
Yeah, there's been a few conversations about that ridiculousness.
Oh man. Then the Buccaneers, Tom Brady gone, Tom Brady back, now Bruce Arians gone.
Yeah.
That could be something there. You just never know. That was kind of a coincidental parallel there.
Yeah, 100%.
We're glad he's back, though.
Oh man, I'm totally glad. I'm totally glad.
Yeah.
It is funny how people's attitudes change, geographically change, I should say.
Because he was a Patriot originally, correct?
Yes, he was a Patriot. And of course, someone from Indiana, would just absolutely hate and despise that. Okay.
It couldn't be this one sitting over here to my left, is it?
Go Brady.
I think she even had a number 18 jersey. I mean, just how many rings did Brady steal away from Manning?
We won't discuss that.
Okay,
But I can see how the appeal for the Tampa Bay Bucks has increased with females because you got to give Tom Brady, he's a good looking man. And just like there was so many women that flocked to the Miami Dolphins when Dan Marino was the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. they didn't have the greatest team, but because Dan Marino was on that team, there's a lot of women that like the Miami Dolphins.
No, I do not find. I mean, he's not a bad-looking man, but
Oh, Brady is.
yeah, I
He's
don't.
awesome.
I don't find him.
You don't find him attractive? So he doesn't give you the vapors when you see him?
No.
So if he walked in here right now and looked at you and said, Mama Dukes, would you like me to sign you a football? You wouldn't start this.
I would take the football. I wouldn't like. I get hot flashes just like but
So you don't need nobody to get the vapors, do you?
Yeah, no. I mean, I'll take the autograph, but
Buster,
the
we
hot
got a
flashes
call?
just because of my age.
Absolutely. Yes, we do. We've got Dave. Dave, are you there?
Yes, sir. Death Metal Dave in your face.
Hey guys, usually this is all about motorcycling and charity in the community, but something's going on this Saturday, and it's going to be at the Brass Mug in Tampa, known for having the greatest metal bands, or the only metal bands that play usually is in Tampa Bay. But on the phone, we have the guru of metal in Tampa Bay, and pretty much Florida and the Southeast, and probably the USA, hangs out with Obituary, and just good friends with everybody because he's a good guy. And Dave Allison, how are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, man. It's an honor to be on your show. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the legendary Nasty Savage with Mr. Ron Galletti, Nasty Ronnie.
Well, that's why we're talking to you, man, because I could sit here and talk about myself, but I don't do that kind of stuff. So heavy metal is a little different from us usually in the studio. But you've seen the progression of Nasty Savage. I mean, it's been over 37 years. We're playing Saturday night. What type of impact would you say that Nasty Savage has had first on the metal scene in the Tampa Bay and Florida Southeast region?
Nasty Savage made a big impact throughout the freaking world. I'm actually from Alabama, and a friend of mine introduced me to Nasty Savage in his garage while we were twiddling around when I was like 16 years old. It was freaking awesome. And as far as the Tampa Bay area and Florida area, Nasty Savage has influenced some of the major death metal bands such as Obituary, Atheist, and Deicide, just to name a few, as long as many, many others from way back in the day.
Death, Morbid Angel?
Still today, touring.
Yeah, even Chuck from Death.
Yep, Chuck from Death, and just a lot of the death metal. I mean, Nasty Savage was one of the first on Metal Blade, I do believe, back in the day. And Metal Massacre, you guys were on a Metal Massacre.
Yep, number 6.
That. And but if you're ready to see a metal show, this is old school. Ronnie's going to be smashing TVs. There's going to be a dual threat of shredding guitars led by David Austin. What a master at his craft. He's just awesome. And an awesome dude, too. Ronnie, you guys, I love you guys, man.
That says a lot, man. But, that the music is something that kind of gets me going, man. It's like hypnotic to me. So I got to give it to the guys with the power of the progressive thrash metal that Dave and the boys put out there. It's a big wall of sound. It's powerful. And then, we interact with the crowd pretty well, don't we?
Yes, sir. You are a master at that craft right there. You are a preacher. If you want to go and see a sermon, you need to go to Nasty Savage and just listen to Nasty Ronnie give his sermon.
So who is the lead singer of Nasty Savage?
You're looking at him, bro.
So our very own Ron Galletti.
Outside of Born to Ride.
Yeah, see, they don't know this about me because I'm just a low-key guy, always mellow. But, they've heard about it. But I put it in perspective from someone like you could probably explain it better. But I do try to burn images in people's brains.
Well, you have toured the world. You've seen it all. And I've seen, I wasn't there, but I've seen pictures of an old Greyhound bus that you toured around in back in the day with bands like DRI. I think didn't you tour with Slayer up in Europe or something at one time?
Yeah, we played with them in New York, and we had that tour bus when we went to World War III in Canada and Montreal. We played with Destruction, Voivod, Celtic Frost, and Possessed. Nasty Savage's World War III in Montreal, Canada. That had to be like in 1984 or 85.
To this day, you go around to festivals and such, don't you?
Yeah, we got a call today about coming back to Denmark and Belgium, a couple of shows that got canceled because of COVID. We did have to cancel 3 shows in Brazil that we were going to go to in July, but we just got booked to go to L.A. We're playing in Chicago. We got a show that Chainsaw Massacre thing's coming up in is that the Carolinas? So
Right on.
But this Saturday night, brother, it's going down at the Brass Mug. How important has that place been for metal? It's this Saturday night. It's 2 days away, man. It's getting close. People are flying in from different parts of the country to actually see us. I can't believe it.
They always do, and I love that for that. There's if you don't mind, I'll mention the opening band.
Sure.
This is Saturday, April the 2nd, this Saturday, 2022. $16 advance. You can get them online. You just go look up Brass Mug in Tampa. And opening bands are, if I can read these, look like a bunch of thrown sticks. Expernium, Three Knuckles Deep, Call of the Priest. They're a killer Judas Priest tribute band. Man, they bring it out. They're really good. And Nibtrue. And one of these bands are traveling from California just to play with Nasty Savage. And it's going to be a great show. Of course, Nasty Savage always brings the great show with, like I said, the preacher, Mr. Nasty Ronnie, smashing TVs over his head. Man, I love it. Man. I'm looking forward to it.
I really do that. I do that.
Ron, when's the first time you did that, and what was running through your mind when you decided to do that? Or was this something that was it just done on stage, or did you say, hey, maybe we ought to try this, and you did it during practice or something there?
Well, I was influenced and inspired always by Wendy O. Williams, and she was a maniac on stage. She liked to smash things, and TVs were one of them, but she used the sledgehammer. So my very first show we ever did, Tom Hepner's parents' house in a subdivision in Brandon. His parents were out of town. I did smash a TV set. We went to a job site and actually we stole a bunch of wood and made in Fred's van. We tied it to the top.
Thank goodness the statute for limitation.
Stage, man. And then when the police came, there's like 100 people there. They got to see the cops come right to us. And right when they came to the stage, we played "Breaking the Law" by Judas Priest. So we were defiant. But to me, the television represented authority or someone trying to tell us what to do or program. So I figured, why not use it as a ploy or a gimmick to like a bullfighter. He messes with the bull the whole time, the capes and this and that, and at the end he takes care of the bull. He does what it needs to do, and that's kind of what I do with the television. It just take people on a trip, man. It's just controlled violence, but it's a show. But what I really want to do, Fester, is burn images in people's brains so they never forget what they just saw, and they anticipate to come back again, and they might even go home with a piece of the television set, right, Dave?
Absolutely. And these aren't these flat screen wimpy TVs, you know what I mean? He takes the old school pit screen TVs with the tubes with the glass and smashes those. So if you want to recycle a TV, just bring it to a Nasty Savage show.
and I saw 2 of them yesterday in the when we were practicing over at Pete's house or his jam room, and they had 4 television sets. They're old school. Matter of fact, even on the way there, I was at a stoplight and I looked at this trailer next to me, and there was an old TV on that, and it kind of got me going. But to see the reality of the television sets. It's coming, it's a build-up, we're not spring chickens anymore, but I'll throw that thing up as probably high as the ceiling, and I will smash it down on my chest, and then whatever happens after that, sometimes like a football, you don't quite know how it's going to bounce, and that's where David Austin, he's always got that inside of his eye looking, because he knows how crazy those televisions actually do bounce on the stage.
Man, I just got chills when I just heard that gladiator voice. I heard it come out. He's like, and I just smashed the TV.
You know, it's getting close to time, and you got to get focused. And you know, it's like you got to build it up. But man, I'll tell you what, the metal scene, it's really about fans, but they're friends, people coming together, all walks of life. You know, you can't judge a book by its cover. You know, tattoos, piercings, you know, whatever. They look like bikers, or they look like hippies, or they look like just metal dudes, whatever. There's no one way. And what I really appreciate is the people coming together because the power of the music. And Dave, you hang out with Obituary. Did you read that book yet? Did you see when a band like Obituary gives us almost a whole chapter on how Nasty Savage inspired them? I was blown away, man, with that.
Yeah, I just got through that part, which I've already known the story many years, that, you know, Nasty Savage would play in the neighborhood actually near where I live now, and the Tardies would ride their bikes around, and Trevor Perez also would ride their bikes through the neighborhood when they're like, you know, 15, 14, and then they kept hearing this band jamming in a garage, and finally, you know, would circle around, and from what I remember is that Ronnie, you welcomed them.
Well, you know, how it really happened, bro, is I was living at my mom's house, and she goes, Ron, there's two boys at the door. They want to talk to you. And I'm going, okay. And
that's right.
I go to the door, man, and they found out where I lived. And I go to the door, and these two guys are on bicycles, and they go, hey, are you Nasty Ronnie? I said, yeah. And they go, we're John and Donald Tardy, and we want to know how to start a band. I'm like, damn, these guys are, these guys are serious. And they came to the right source of somebody who was a marketing metal kind of guy, you know, like, that was my job. I kind of really wasn't a singer, just played one on stage, toured the world, and did about 6 albums, and we're still getting booked to tour the world. But, you know, whatever it is, it's something we created. And so we went out to Lithia Springs and threw the Frisbee for a couple hours, and, we gave them a 101 on bands, and now they're just unbelievable on tour nonstop. I have so much respect for those guys, you know, and they put us on that video, and you were on the video too. What is it, 1,000 Ways to Die or 10,000 Ways?
10,000 Ways to Die.
Yeah, and that's got how many millions? 4 million, 5 million, or more views.
A lot.
So what that did, it rejuvenated Nasty Savage to a lot of new heavy metal kids out there who never even knew who we were.
Well, you're on a lot of battle jackets now, and if you don't know what a battle jacket is, like a denim or leather jacket filled with patches, and they call them battle jackets, kind of like a biker would wear.
Yeah, man, and that's a lot of respect. You know, we never had a ton of merchandise, but when you see that stuff, it's always good. That's why when people approach us, say, hey, we want to make some patches, or you know, we find out people are making patches, we just let them go for it. And they might give us a few patches. But Dave, this Saturday night, brother, I can't thank you enough for all you do in metal. I know you've done radio shows. You're a part of a lot of stuff. A lot of respect goes out to you. And you guys are always at all the cool shows. Matter of fact, you were at Cannibal Corpse the other night, and I saw you wearing your Nasty Savage shirt. I just thought that was really cool, man. Much respect to you, brother.
Always supporting. I appreciate you guys, man, and what you've done for the metal world, period. Hell yeah.
Well, man, we appreciate any last words to people who might, if they didn't know about the Brass Mug, where it's at, or just to come out Saturday night?
Skipper Road, Brass Mug, legendary venue. You're going to see a legendary band, Nasty Savage, with Nasty Ronnie destroying the stage and TV.
Oh man, and the band backs it up 110%. Man, I love the guys we're jamming with, and it's all good, people. It's just another part of my life that I do, and I think we have another call.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave, thanks for calling in, man.
Guys,
we're always welcome here.
Me.
Thank you, brother.
See you Saturday, Ronnie.
All right, brother, we'll be there.
All right, see you. Bye.
Okay. Well, and we do have Nefarious James on line 2 here, Ron. You ready to go?
We are ready, man. We're always ready for James.
Okay, let's lock him in. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How are you doing?
James, man, it's good to hear you. How is everything going, man?
I don't know. I got to figure out how to follow that last one because I remember Nasty Ronnie back in '98.
I know that was
like 88.
We're talking,
88.
we're talking 82, 83 when we first started, man. It's been 37 going on 38 years. But that all that stuff was marketing and promotion, and it kind of brought me to the wrestling stuff when I did that at Universal, and then I started the television. And it all goes back to really anything in life is common sense, is starting with a plan and how the best to do it. And man, we just started a little niche with the heavy metal music in Brandon, and then we kind of paved the way for a lot of bands. And it's kind of euphoric to know we can still go back and do it, and we still have the market share to that people want to see us, and they want us to write new music. And it's just a whole nother part of my life, but it really comes together with exactly where I'm at right now. It's just talking to Nefarious James, man, because you're a mover and shaker too, man. People really dig what you've been writing because you have that slice of reality, and people are digging it, man. Like the nice punch in the face, the current issue that you wrote about. That's what I wanted you to share about some of the feelings, so you could tell us about them. And instead of reading it, let's really get into what you're about, James, and why you do what you do.
Well, actually, it worked out pretty good today. I mean, today's Thursday. I didn't have any tendencies to want to punch anybody in the face today, but day's not over yet. But as far as the way I look at it, I mean, I just pretty much go by day to day. I think we've discussed it once before. I mean, I pretty much write what's on my mind at the moment. Some people agree, some people don't agree. The beautiful thing about the entire process is I've learned not to care about other people's opinions. So, as twisted as that may end up being, it's just a view I have to have, because right now people aren't really able to form their own opinion, unfortunately. They go by media, they go by TV, they go by the guy at the bar, the guy on the street, the guy at work, and it seems to take hold of them, and you ask them their opinion, and one day it's one thing, and the next day it's another thing, depending on who they're talking to. And sometimes changing what they're saying is a complete flip around, and then they're back to what they originally were saying a week later. It can get kind of frustrating when you really don't know what to believe anymore, and that seems to be a really bad thing. I bounce around a lot, but my brain's never slowing down for some reason. But it's a strange process, to say the least. I mean, people never give you nothing to work with. They will always come up with something that you can end up commenting on.
Well, James, the biker world seems to be changing every day. A lot of new riders, a lot of old riders. People are getting too old to ride. Then you got to watch out about safety on the road. I know you've had some friends that have been hit and lost, and it's terrible when we have to deal with that kind of stuff. But the ups and downs of just the brotherhood, the sisterhood, and just the community itself is you never know what's around that next corner. Even you were hit.
Sure. Yeah. I was hit, what's going on 2 years ago, I think now, in October. And it's, you can end up being the safest person in the world and keeping your eyes open and your head on a swivel all you want, but you can't control your entire environment. It's impossible. And unfortunately, there has been a lot of, as you'll end up reading coming up, de-evolution of our society, even in the motorcycle community, to where the old values, the old way of looking at things, the old way of presenting yourself, unfortunately has changed to where, I don't know, it's sometimes I feel like it's just a costume show when you go somewhere. One day, if they're in a group, they act one way, they're by themselves, they act another way. It's almost like a loss of identity, where at one point, 70s, 80s, even early 90s, you were what you were. You represented yourself as you were, and if people liked it, great. If they didn't, well, sometimes it's not a popularity contest. And it has changed leaps and bounds, to say the least. I think I mentioned once before, I never thought I'd saw the day where, I'd see a $60,000, $70,000 motorcycle, and then even more so, somebody buy it.
Yeah.
Well, I got a question. You kind of touched on it there for a second. So you're saying that because from what I understand, it's always been a brotherhood. If you're with a motorcycle club, it's a brotherhood, and when you're down and out, you have your brothers there to pull you up, by your bootstraps, help you out. Are you saying that that's being in a motorcycle club is more of a fad now?
That's a touchy one to really comment on. I can say this. I think the dynamic of some clubs, not all, because I don't know all clubs, I don't know all people, but the dynamic, I think, has started changing to where there are a lot more people that are going into some of the clubs with, I guess, we saw it on TV mentality, or they read the old books, that some more noted club members in the past have written, and it gets this romanticized version of what they think it is. Being in an organization such as that, there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it. A lot of people don't realize that. I mean, you may touch on a point of saying that, I'm going to be free, or I'm going to, be able to do what I want. I'm going to be able to, blah, 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 blah. It's not like that. You then fall into a structure where you're still going to answer to somebody, and you're still going to be responsible for what you do. And now you're taking a larger group, and you're representing that whole group. Because like being with any other group, people aren't going to sit there and just judge the one person. They're going to judge the entire organization, not only nationally but internationally. So you still carry that responsibility. And we used to actually have a little acronym for it. It was called NIPS, which was New and Patch Syndrome. Guy works all that time and to finally earn his stuff. And next thing you know, he's on the wild side, going off the chain. Well, and then you got to reel him in and remind him, you're part of a bigger thing. You need to represent it accordingly. So that's a misconception. I think a lot of new guys, a lot of new riders. I'm not saying there's an age limit to it, because you've got your new riders going all the way up into retirement. They've always dreamed about getting one, or their wife said, "No, you can't have a bike. You have kids now," and then all of a sudden they get that empty nester, and guy wants to go out to the dealer. Of course, he goes out and buys the heaviest bike, the biggest bike that he can get, and not remembering that those bikes weigh a bit, and now he's got to lift it. So it's a whole. I don't know. I just I'm really not able to give super specifics, but it's to a point there are some people where they look at it as a vanity thing, and they sort of get away from what the core values were of what clubs were, and pretty much what they ended up doing.
Hey, James Fester, I think it's here in Plant City, Duke's Brew House. Did you hear about this? I just heard about this, James, that they put a sign on the door said no motorcycle colors. So isn't that a form of discrimination? Because they're trying to go after like maybe 1% clubs, but that also falls into everybody from, say, the Hells Angels to the Heaven Saints to police clubs, veteran clubs. That's a big thing to worry about, I would say, as an ownership of a business. Wouldn't you say they're opening up a can of worms?
Well,
or can they do that?
Daytona's been doing that for decades. And it has greatly affected Bike Week. I recall going down, A1A and going over to Main Street and walking into a bar and having couldn't even count how many officers walked in to tell me that I wasn't welcome there and I had to leave because of what I was wearing. It is a form of discrimination. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. As they ended up saying, the definition of a gang is, just kind of a brief scrub on it is, those that wear like attire, the same patches or same colors or whatever. Basically, they were going for like some of the old street gangs where they were identified by colors, bandanas or so on and so forth. and they would go by that. So they put that in the definition of gang, and they weren't really happy when I said, that's funny because I'm here by myself. I'm wearing what I'm wearing, but I'm surrounded by 8 guys that are all wearing the same exact thing. So you guys are a gang, right?
That would be the police.
Yeah. And they weren't really happy about that. But it's it's a fact. I actually had one that off the record in a tirade of unhappiness said, yeah, and he used some expletive. He said, we're the biggest gang that there is, so don't us. So it's like, oh, okay. So thank you for at least being honest about it. But yeah, it's becoming more and more commonplace because they may have had some problems with people, and they're using that as a reason and a segue. And unfortunately, at least I know it used to be from when I was more in contact with people in the Daytona area and Volusia County, that it was pressed by law enforcement to make these bar owners put those signs up in order to try to drive away what they considered to be, an unwanted element. But by doing so, they've turned Bike Week into what it is now.
What would you say it is now?
Well,
tell me what you think Bike Week is, because to me sometimes it's like a clown show.
yeah, it's like a dog and pony show. Unfortunately, I could use a couple of examples, which would probably end up giving it a little bit more context. I remember when I used to end up going, and I haven't gone in years. I think I made a stop by 2 years ago to actually visit one of your booths there, and it was the same. It was just costumes. And the women that normally wouldn't end up dressing a certain way all of a sudden think that it's like Halloween. They put on the naughty nurse costume just to be able to go out to the show.
Yeah.
And you're looking and you're going, okay, I bet you don't wear that at your home or when you pick up your kids at the bus stop. But hey, if that's what you want to do. We used to have ones that would stop by and, they got their husband just bought them a new boob job. All of a sudden, the one that wouldn't even show anything, all of a sudden is showing them off to everybody. So, yeah, it's changed in that respect. That and, certain styles of motorcycles are taking over. I mean, I remember Chopper Dave's when, you built your own stuff, you worked on your own stuff. And, the factories have kind of taken a lot of that away because, heck, you can't even change an air cleaner without going to the dealership to get your bike reprogrammed. So they sort of pigeonholed it into, and they did a great marketing job. I mean, if you really think about it, they drove business to the people who can afford their high-dollar toys.
Yeah, Fester, what do you think, man? I mean, we got Nefarious James on the line, man.
Well,
Cutting edge.
I know, I think Mama Dukes was curious just from a personal standpoint, how James was doing, right? I mean,
Yeah, health-wise. How are you doing? Are you doing better? I know you had some issues a while back ago.
Oh, I just collect issues.
We all do.
I mean, why just have one when you can have them all? But no,
Go big or go home.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
That's nice
just
of you
it.
to
If
think
you're
about
gonna-
James, too. We all do.
Yeah, well, I do greatly appreciate that. It's nice to have someone, think about me other than ones that put the posters up in the post office. But on the whole, as far as life's going, it's been a lot of changes. I've noticed I've become more of a recluse and stay away from a lot of the venues here locally and a lot of the people locally because it always attaches itself with drama. Unfortunately, people don't seem to be capable of developing their own life, so they need to somehow inject themselves into someone else's. And if you don't follow what their group is doing, like putting bras on their heads and stupid whatever like that, you then all of a sudden you're the topic of discussion that day because I don't know if they're lacking excitement in their own lives, so they need to try to make some other drama. I don't understand it. I really don't. I mean, it used to be I'd go somewhere, I might stop, I might have a beer or water or whatever, and chit chat with someone and be on my way. And now it's you get this whole other element that goes with it. It's almost like a really bad Ann Landers column with people who just can't help but talk about other people, and it's very sad.
Well, this
and unfortunately, some of the things that I'm not going to sit there and say, yeah, I don't deserve it. Yeah, there's some stuff I did. I rightfully deserve it. And it's probably a really good topic of conversation for a while. I went off my deep end and whatnot when I had some losses go through that were very, very close to me. And, it's still, which is surprising to me, it's still an ongoing healing process with it. But that's what happens when you actually decide to have feelings and care deeply about other people. And going with what Ron was saying about, you never know when you're going to lose somebody and so on and so forth. It's very accurate. I mean, there's been, and the more that you put yourself out there, like you guys, like, me and Ronnie and a bunch of other ones, the more you put yourself out there, the more people you know and the more often it happens. And that list just doesn't get smaller. It just grows because you'll see blurbs on Facebook and whatnot. So-and-so just passed, or this one just passed, or this one was in an accident, or people, check on your people because we saw a wreck on such and such. And it just becomes more and more frequent with the more people that you know. And I think that's kind of what pushed me into reclusion, because I just got tired of seeing everything, written out there of people that, that I've dealt with that are no longer with us.
Now, I don't know if you're watching Facebook Live, but as it's coming across the screen, the bike keeps popping up. In Sarasota a couple years ago, I think it was.
Yeah, Thunder Bay. A couple of years ago.
There was this bike there, and we're standing there like just admiring it. I love the seat, the color, and Nefarious walks up to us and starts telling us the story behind this. It's like
P pad.
Yeah,
but
P-pad.
It's an extra large P pad on the fender. Yeah.
So tell Ron and DB the story behind that Pete pad. This is one of my favorite stories.
Oh, you're talking about cornbread.
Yep, cornbread. Yep. You see this? Do you see the sissy pad on there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the story behind that is kind of amusing. It's on my 57 Panhead. I was having some leather stuff done to it, and I needed to figure out, well, how was I going to mount it on this hardtail that had, basically nothing to hang on to. And of course, if you're going to have a nice ride, you want to share it with somebody if possible. So I needed to figure out a way to end up making this seat. So the guy goes, well, what size do you need? And I'm like, well, hell if I know. I guess we can measure the fender and figure it out. So I said, give me tonight to think about it. And I went home, and I was cooking some chili, and I decided I was going to make some cornbread. And I'm looking at the baking pan, and I'm thinking about my bike, and I was like, you know what? This would be perfect if it was made out of leather and it was comfortable and was back there. So I brought the baking pan in, and I said, I need it to be this size and maybe a half inch thicker. And I ended up having it done the same color as my cornbread. So I call my passenger pad cornbread.
Oh, that is priceless. That is priceless, yes.
Like a pan
and of course, with that, if you wanted to add the adult portion off onto the end, I told them they have to supply the butter. But anyway.
That's awesome. James, what can we look forward to in the next article that's going to debut here any day? People really anticipate your stuff. And we get letters from people and emails that really appreciate your truthfulness or your words. Yeah. Your style.
Honestly.
Are there any of them from the police department again?
Probably they're undercover ones. They're using other names and stuff. They're trying to get close to you. They're trying to find where you're at.
Yeah, they're not bringing their colors, so we're not sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it was years and years ago. I remember Ronnie ended up giving me a call. Goes, I don't think it was a call. I think we ended up running into each other at an event, and he was telling me about how a local police department had contacted him and said they will never read his magazine again because of what I wrote about him.
Yeah, you and Craven too.
Yeah, and then like a month later, they asked you if you'd end up helping them with a toy run or something.
Yeah, and that's the way it is. We don't hold back. But we want to be diversified as much as we can, but we also can't forget about the real deal stuff. And if you look on on the TV, it's always if it reads, it bleeds. Blood on the asphalt. Yeah. So we want to document the lifestyle in a proper way, and if we can't do it, who can? So we have to be true. and that's important.
Just it. I've put it in print. I've said it at speaking engagements, and I've told them point blank, I don't hold a grudge against anybody except for maybe a half a dozen people, which I'm going to leave nameless. Anyway,
Just a half a dozen.
but it comes down to where, you say what's on your mind, and you represent yourself for who you are and what you believe in. You do that, and you're honest about it in your presentation and how you end up wording it. You can't go wrong. If you want to tell stories, you want to lie about stuff. You put yourself in a large responsibility that nobody could end up shouldering that kind of burden, and that's remembering what it is you lied about, because you've got to remember that lie for the rest of your life. I don't know about anybody else that I know. I am not capable of having a memory that good, because I don't know what it'll be that I'll end up losing memory-wise next, just like anyone else who starts getting up there in years. It's just not going to happen. So this magazine and show and everything else that goes with it, having the platform to be able to express yourself, how you want to express yourself, the conversations you can have with people like we're having now, having that opportunity to do that is priceless, because there are so few venues and so few media outlets that will allow that to happen. It's so censored and so, cut apart or put together in a way to, fit their agenda. I'll give an example. I got called up years ago. There was a deputy. He was hit by a car on his motorcycle. I was working for a motorcycle safety organization at the time. They contacted me, asked me if I'd do an interview. I said, sure, I'll do an interview. They asked me about how I felt about him being killed, and so on and so forth. Basically, my bottom line was, I feel for his family. I feel for the fact that he had this accident, and it really does hurt you as a fellow rider. But the feelings that his family are having run parallel. I'm not saying they're the same, but they run parallel to how many other families have lost lost relatives. So it's kind of like the same thing. They decided to chop it up and say, and he ends up, his friends and family all disagree that he's just like everybody else, and that it's just it is what it is.
So they move your words around.
Yeah, they made it to fit
That's
their agenda.
unfortunate.
That's why I'm very careful about what I end up saying.
Well, James, we appreciate you calling tonight. We have another caller coming, but before we let you go, man, I wanted to ask you. I think you could probably put this in perspective, but how important are our Vietnam veterans to you, with Memorial Day coming up and everything, and how they sacrifice the Vietnam vets? And I know they have a motorcycle club too, but in general, man, what can you say for the Vietnam veterans out there?
Well, I give a lot of credit to the Vietnam veterans. I mean, I used to end up running a lot of events with them, again, back in the day. I mean, how the entire story evolved with the way they were treated during and the times and how it was expressed, it was totally wrong. Not like it is today, where everybody's pro veteran, I guess you could say. I can't say enough and thank them enough for what they've done. I don't think anybody can. Granted, it may have happened somewhere else. It may have happened with something that wasn't popular at the time, but it doesn't change the fact that the sacrifice those people ended up giving and the lives that were lost during it. There's just no way to express the kind of gratitude people should have toward those men and women.
Yeah. All right, James. Well, man, I really appreciate you, brother, and let's do this more often. Will you promise that you'll call in once in a while, a little more often?
Oh, promises are for those weak people.
All right, I'll just call you and pry you out of your cold dead hands. All right,
well, who
brother.
knows? Maybe when you're looking out on Saturday, maybe I'll be out there.
All right, man. Well, James, it's always great to hear you, and we're looking forward to Nefarious James in the next issue. And thank you so much, brother.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with all of you.
Always great, man.
Yeah. And I know the last two Christmas shoebox runs that we ran, DB, and you didn't get to go the first one.
No, I couldn't.
But that was up there in the Gainesville area, and it was more of Iraqi, the Gulf War, those that age limit and everything. But this last one, it struck me in the Ocala. I can't even remember the
I can't remember neither.
the place there either. But I mean, in other words,
It was a veteran center.
but it was for the Vietnam vets, I mean, and that, I mean, these guys are getting up there.
Yeah.
Okay, in other words, and you're right. I mean, they've not been given, just like James was saying there, they came back in a different time than it has been for a lot of these other veterans there.
Well, you know what, man? That brings us right to our next caller because the guy is a visionary. His name is Ben Peterson. He's the founder and CEO of Heroes Honor Festival, which is totally to celebrate Vietnam veterans. And we're honored to have him. Is he on the line?
Ben, welcome to the Born to Ride radio show. You've got Mama Dukes in the studio. I'm Fester Jenkins. We got DB operating the Facebook Live cameras, and of course, Ron Galletti here.
What's going on, Patriots?
Yes, sir.
Y'all living free?
Yes, we are.
Trying to.
Hey, we're all doing our best in this day and age, huh?
Absolutely.
Now, Ben, I know you're a veteran of over 8 years and a U.S. Army veteran, and I know you were in Iraq. Actually, you were a sergeant. So you know the trauma that war can give. And you've taken upon yourself to start a 501c3 called, is it Engage Your Destiny? And you started Heroes Honor Festival. And they can go to heroeshonorfestival.com. This is to honor Vietnam veterans, man. Tell us, why did you come up with this? How did you come up with this? And what is it all about?
Yeah, man. I never dreamed I'd do something like this. It was God's plan, and He loves these guys so much. When I went to Iraq 2008, 2009, and y'all remember when protesters began showing up at Iraq veteran funerals. And so there were actually over 100 funerals that were protested by folks that disagreed with the war in Iraq. And so here we have family members that are trying to mourn the deaths of their sons and daughters, and protesters are showing up. And once the Vietnam guys got wind of this, there was this amazing, beautiful, organic movement of these guys that said, never again are we going to allow what happened to us happen to our sons and to our daughters. And the Patriot Guard Riders was formed out of that whole mission, and Rolling Thunder Riders, joined in, American Legion Riders, and they started protecting all the, funerals and then the welcome homes of 9/11 vets. I was in Iraq when all this was going on, and I come home and I turn the corner off the bus, and folks, the first thing that I see is over 100 Vietnam veterans lined up shoulder to shoulder, holding the American flag and guarding my welcome homes. And, I come from a military family, student of history, and even, young military guys. We know what happened to them. And as military people, we're big on ceremony and the meaning behind things. And us young guys pass through those Vietnam guys to get to our families. And as we passed by them, I was looking at the faces of guys that have been spit on, that have been called baby killers. We've heard stories of Vietnam vets that had actual animal blood thrown on them while they were called baby killers. People, when they'd sit down at the airport, they'd get up and leave. Sit down on airplane seats, people would get up and leave. I mean, the stories are unbelievable as to how these folks were treated, and these patriots were treated. And so, fast forward, I was taking care of my dad while he was passing away of cancer, and there's no other way to put it, but I had a vision as I walked into the living room of a massive stadium filled with tens of thousands of Vietnam veterans, and they were surrounded by younger veterans and family members, and they were being honored and welcomed home. And I knew that God was giving me a vision and showing me something that really needed to happen in our nation. So we've been working on the Heroes Honor Festival for about 2 years, and it's been a monster undertaking. We're 60 days out, and we are going to give these heroes the biggest, baddest, most patriotic honor event in American history.
Now that's coming up at Daytona International Speedway, so you picked a good venue.
Well, it was in the middle of COVID, and we kind of got blessed because not too many organizations were calling Daytona trying to do big events in 2020. So we got in and got the venue. It was pretty awesome.
And it's coming up May 27th and 28th. It's a 2-day, but you're bringing in some firepower, man. Toby Keith. I just found out Governor Ron DeSantis is going to be there. Colonel Oliver North, a legend in combat. And then somebody who hung out with Elvis Presley on a movie or two, Ann Margaret's going to be there.
Yeah, baby.
And
Those
you
guys are going to have a heart attack.
bringing it in, man. And then it looks like you have some sponsorship or people behind this, corporate companies like Harley Davidson, Fox Nation, Humana, Toyota. It's the most patriotic celebration ever to happen. It looks like your dream is going to be a reality. How are you feeling? How's it going? And how do you get these kind of people lined up to attend?
I mean, we're 60 days out, so we're in the heat of the grind, and doing our best to execute with excellence. We're not perfect, but we will be excellent. So definitely feeling the anxiousness and the tension, but it's a good place to be. I would say that a lot of hard work and relationships is what has gotten us to where we are, and a lot of favor from God. We have just been able to find the people that care about this mission, and I believe if you really have a mission that you believe in and you're passionate enough about it, you're going to find other people that are going to share in that passion, and we've been really blessed to find that. So the other thing that's just been huge is Fox Nation is going to be live streaming the event to the entire country. We've got Vietnam guys that are, they're in homes or they aren't mobile and they're not going to be able to get out, but they're still going to be able to tune in and have a small share in this event, which we're really thankful for.
So what is going to happen at the event? You got Saturday and Sunday. I mean, you got entertainment, speakers, ceremonies. Fill us in on why they don't want to miss this. And there's veteran clubs out there. Reach out to them and give a shout out to those guys too. But tell us what they're going to see when they get there and what's planned for the event, the 2 days.
Yeah. So quick question. It's Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday is Sunday's the demonstration ride that they're doing out of Daytona to a Harley dealership. Friday is the big reunion. So we're really setting this up for these guys to reunite with their brothers that they served with, and we're going to be highlighting all the key divisions, between, Army, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard, even the Air Force. We'll even let those guys come. That's a military joke. Don't get offended.
Right.
But yeah, so that's a real time of brotherhood and family. Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin is going to be speaking that evening, and he was one of the original SOCOM and Delta Force guys, just an incredible patriot. And so Friday is not so much about the pomp and circumstance, it's really about the family and the brotherhood. And we'll have a few surprises up our sleeve. And then Saturday, my 3.5-month-old is in the background. And then Saturday is going to be where we're going to have the big welcome home. So we've got military jets that are going to fly over. We've got Navy SEALs that are going to parachute in with American flags and pyro. We've got other pyro flyovers. We're going to be having Justin Moore, Craig Morgan, awards for Ann Margaret and Chris Noel, a speech from Governor DeSantis, a speech from myself, and then we'll cap the night off with a big blowout with Toby Keith.
And that sounds pretty exciting. Mm. And where can they get tickets? And, what's the cost for this going to be? And I'm sure it's going to good charities, right?
Yep, absolutely. So right now, the advanced ticket pricing, it's at $89 a pop. And the event is free for all Vietnam veterans and their spouses.
Hold on, did you say free for Vietnam vets and their spouses? Look,
yes,
that's giving back, really, brother. That is awesome.
Yeah, so we've really worked hard to raise money to make that possible, and we've still got a little ways to go on our budget. So that's why we're really calling on America and our patriots to show up to buy their tickets so that we can get across the finish line with, the cost of this, but then also to really show up in a major way for these guys so that they feel loved and surrounded and that they truly are worth it. And that's really, these guys went and they served as patriots in the Vietnam War, which alone is worth this level of a celebration. But then they came home and were shamed, And the crux of who we are and why we're doing what we're doing is because they could have said, screw the military, screw this country. They could have rejected it. But instead, they despised that shame, and they took up the banner of becoming guardians of honor, which is why they are worthy of this level of an event. So I'm calling on every patriot, every lover of America, every lover of our military, go heroeshonorfestival.com. That's heroeshonorfestival.com. Get your tickets and share in this experience.
What I've read about and heard about Vietnam is a lot of the troops and guys, they had each other, and that's all they could really count on. And some of them didn't know exactly why they were there, but they had to deal with it. But they had each other, and there were people from all walks of life. There's black people and white people, and at a time in America where they were having problems at home, but they brought themselves as brothers in arms in Vietnam, and it brought a lot of people close together. So you can bring them back together with with Heroes Honor people. And is there a way that if people can't make it, they're listening or they hear this when we share it, can they donate? Can people just donate to your cause?
Absolutely. So you go to heroeshonorfestival.com and you can sponsor a Vietnam veteran and donate so they can have this experience.
So people, you can donate to this cause. We're talking about the Vietnam veterans. It's heroeshonorfestival.com if you want more information with Ben Peterson. He's the founder and the CEO of this. And how important is this, not only to you, but for America?
Our country is in a critical hour right now, and we have so much negative and communist propaganda and trash that is going out to this country and this world. It's time to believe in something again that doesn't divide us, but it unites us. Our military and our veterans are worth uniting over, and the principle and the characteristic of honor, that value is worth uniting under. So we need to bring these incredible values back to the American people, and we believe that this is going to play a small part of it in the big fight that we have to restore this country.
Man, what do you got to say about that, Fester? What do you think? This is powerful, man.
Well, I was listening, and I can only imagine, Ben, that, you describing getting off and the the vets making that wall, that had to have... how did that make you feel personally? And I'm sure that with what you've described, that is kind of what has brought you to this point and to this level of commitment here.
Well, I mean, if you ask any 9/11 veteran what their experience was like, every one of them, when you find your family after being in a combat zone and facing death and praying the prayer, Jesus, I'm ready to meet you because you think you're going to die, and you get to your family and you get to American soil, you bawl like a freaking baby. And let me tell you, those guys didn't get to have that experience. They came home, they were safe, they got to their beloved American soil, and then they were shamed. And so what that means for me, when I got to have that bawl like a baby safe experience with my family, that puts a fire in me to do something for these guys that is so long overdue and totally worth it.
Well, I got to say, I mean, and I agree with you 100%. These people were spat on and just verbally, just horribly treated. And I've got to say, I am proud to hear that you have picked up this mantle and you're doing this thing for them. This is just awesome. May 27th and 28th, Heroes Honor Festival at the Daytona International Speedway.
Yeah, man, this is something that people need to get behind and honor our veterans, and it's the Heroes Honor. One thing that stood out in my mind, I know we're getting close to the end of the show, is there were plenty of American boys dying in Vietnam, and there happened to be some protesters at Kent State, and four of them got killed or something and shot, and that was the big story, while American boys were being killed in Vietnam. So need to put it in perspective. An event like this puts it in perspective, sets the record straight. Man, any last words, Ben? I mean, I'm fired up, man. I got goosebumps here.
For anyone who's just catching the end of the show, this is something that America needs. We need more of. And the more that we can support it, the more we will see of it. And it's the heroeshonorfestival.com. Get behind us, and you will be proud to say that you were a part of this.
Man, thank you so much. Where can I get in touch with you again? What's the website?
heroeshonorfestival.com.
Ben, I can't thank you enough. Can you promise to call back maybe every other week and give us a little update, or have some of your people call in, or someone you might want to feature, even a sponsor or anybody that's behind this, man? We want to be a part of it even more.
Hey, throw it on the calendar, baby. Let's roll.
All right. We'll do it. Right, Fetch?
Absolutely.
Any last words, guys?
Thanks so much, Ben.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Thanks, guys. God bless.
All right,
Bye-bye.
brother.
God bless you. Absolutely. Well, it is coming up on the top of the hour. It's been another, boy, it goes by
Man,
fast.
we went from Nasty Savage to Nefarious James to Heroes Honor, man. What a show, man. We fit it all in. See how that worked, DB? Did we not pull it off?
Yes.
Did you learn anything, DB?
No, I was too busy hitting buttons over here.
Okay, well, like always, we're going to end it with keep it safe, keep it in between the ditches, be careful, and Joe, everybody, you ready? Born to ride. Born to ride.
This is